Good evening, Chairperson of SAMSA, Ms. Tato Minyuku, and the Acting CEO, Mr. Tilai, Captains of Industry. I do apologize for joining you late. We had technical difficulties such that though I had been waiting for a bit before the start of the meeting, I was only able to come in later. Against that apology, Chairperson, I'd like to thank you for the invitation to participate in this important session with stakeholders by SAMSA. Unfortunately, because of those difficulties, I was not able to basically listen into the chairperson of the Maritime Safety Authority. However, I'm pretty sure that she would have given clear directions in terms of the SAMSA's immediate and medium-term program in securing South African waters. I'm also sure that the CEO of SAMSA would have reflected on the projects that they want to implement in partnership with yourselves as industry players in the 2021-22 financial year. From the ports regulator side, our input is really as the other entity in the transport sector. And I would reflect on some of our programs and interventions that have some bearing on the mandate driven by SAMSA and the constituency that you serve. The ports regulator, as part of the maritime South African maritime system, is committed to developing and implementing appropriate and responsive economic regulatory frameworks. And our frameworks, which are aimed at contributing to competitiveness of South Africa's ports, are in a sense complementary to the safety regulation frameworks implemented and driven by SAMSA. The regulator takes into account the imperatives and needs of the maritime industry players, as well as government objectives in terms of tariffs for services in the system, as you would know. And I just want to reflect on some of this in general and specifically relating to the initiatives that I'm sure SAMSA would have spoken about or that we have worked with them that relates to their mandate. In implementing the tariff methodology for port tariffs, we've not only kept port tariffs unchanged on average over the years, but in the tariff decision for 2021-2022, which was announced on the 29th of November 2020, the regulator has kept tariffs unchanged, save for some increases in dry bulk and marine tariffs, and a reduction of export and import container dues. This was to respond to both the trajectory that has been defined in our tariff strategy, but also to the prevailing economic conditions, which were further exacerbated by COVID-19. The regulator retained and in cases strengthened a number of incentives to support the port system in what was and in all probability will remain a challenging year. These incentives includes a 30% reduction in license fees for those companies aiming to undertake port activities, including diving, bunkering, waste disposal, vessel registration agents, and it allows for for companies to pay their license fees over the duration of the license. And it is anticipated that this will provide some relief to start-up companies and allow them to participate in the port system. Over time, we hope that this will assist in lowering the barriers to entry for SMMEs in general. Admittedly, more work needs to be done to target incentives for QSEs and EMEs owned by designated groups, in particular Black, women, people with disabilities, and those from townships and or rural areas. And the year that ended December, that financial year ending March 2021, has seen some reversal in terms of the SCA judgment on the PPPFA regulations that should allow this. However, the BBEE Commission has given hope in that the targeting can still take place under the BBEE Act. The other incentive that the regulator made available to port users in the record of decision is a 35% reduction of port dues on non-cargo working vessels, bona fide coasters, passenger and small vessels, as defined in Section 4 and Clause 2 of our tariff book. And coming specifically to SAMSA's initiatives and in support of the minister's priority in terms of growing the oceans economy and the register, where we know that SAMSA has been working closely with DOT, with SARS, and with National Treasury on incentivizing vessels or dealing with challenges that have prevented more vessels registering on the South African register. From an economic regulatory point of view, the levers that we have are the tariffs, and as a result, our contribution has been we have retained the 30% discount on marine tariffs for South African flagged vessels, and this has been extended up to March 2022. And we look forward to working with SAMSA and industry players in reviewing the effectiveness of this incentive. And then determining how it would the nature what nature it would take if it has to continue. While the benefit may seem insignificant compared to ambitious targets that are to be achieved in terms of the CMTP, the regulator views this as a contribution that we can make in ensuring that South African seafarers have the training and seagoing opportunities that they require to play in the global seafaring industry. The last incentive to mention in relation to your mandate, Chairperson and Acting CEO, is the 60% reduction on dues for vessels that are calling in South African ports to take on bunkers, stores, or water, or a combination of any of these, provided that they do not stay longer than 48 hours at port. They will enjoy that 60% discount. And this is going towards the request and the cry from industry players and the program that SAMSA is driving in trying to capture the traffic that passes by our waters. Alongside the tariff methodology, the regulator will continue to bring about required reforms in port tariffs through our 10-year tariff strategy, which is now in its 5th year of implementation. And the aim of this strategy is to ensure that our tariffs are reflective of the cost and or the benefit that each of you as port users derive from using the assigned port infrastructure, facilities or services. And as you would recall, it has a component which is the Port Tariff Incentive Program, which is aimed at ensuring that where cross subsidies are necessary, they are done within the context of an open and transparent framework and in support of public interest or government policy. Hence, we work closely with the Department of Transport and the Department of Trade and Industry as the custodian of transport and industry and policy and strategies in the country. Looking forward, the regulator will expand its work in terms of strategic alignment of port tariffs with the country's developmental and transformational objectives, with a special focus on coastal shipping, ship repair, regulatory treatment of lease revenue in the port system, as well as amendment of the 2009 regulations. And this will define the focus of our interactions, both with the SAMSA but broadly with industry players. The regulator also plays a critical role in hearing complaints and appeals that are lodged against the NPA by port users, as you would know, if you're adversely affected by the decisions, actions, or inaction of the authority. In this regard, I need to mention that our board that took office in June 2020 has prioritized the tribunal function and is committed to efficiently and timelessly hearing and deciding on tribunal matters. And in this regard, already within 5 months of first 4 months of taking office, they had ruled on a matter and have put processes in place to dispose of matters expeditiously. So port users are invited to avail themselves of the complaints and appeals process. We acknowledge that during a period where we didn't have a board, this service had to be suspended, but it is now prioritized and matters will be dealt with expeditiously. Competitiveness of the South African port system is driven by efficiency of terminal operators. And in this regard, it is important to highlight that we've introduced and continue to implement the weighted efficiency gains from operations, WEGO. And as of last year, we've introduced a downtime adjustment factor. And all of these interventions are aimed at ensuring that we improve efficiencies in the port system by making sure that the authority plays its oversight role on operators, by incentivizing it. Where performance has improved, then they get additional profits, but where performance has regressed, then their profits are reduced according to an agreed framework. And the reason I mentioned this in this forum is because your participation in the different sectors that you operate in the port system is very important. We are now in a phase where we've requested inputs from port users as well as the port authority on the key performance indicators and weights that informs the WEGO program. And I'm sure we'll be able to talk on the details of this outside of the meeting where required. SAMSA is the secretariat of the PCC process, is at the heart of driving these engagements. We continue to provide support to the Department of Transport on processes relating to the single economic transport regulator, of which the port regulator will be a nucleus in terms of the bill when it is established, as well as the corporatization of the National Ports Authority, both of which are outstanding and critical parts of our port governance and institutional architecture that's aimed at developing a responsive, effective, and efficient port system. Ultimately, and in concluding, Chairperson, the different categories of port users, stakeholders, and affected parties are the lifeblood of the regulator's work, and we appreciate the opportunity that you have afforded us to make an input in this process. We have embraced technology during COVID-19 to ensure that we continue to engage with our port users. And as I've indicated, the tribunal work that led to the regulator dispensing of a matter and setting processes in motion would not have been possible if we were not using technology, notwithstanding that it failed me at the beginning of these meetings. But we continue to engage with our stakeholders to ensure that we are kept abreast of and understand your expectations in executing our functions. So we will continue to work closely with SAMSA, with the transport family, industry players in making sure that no effort is spared in getting the South African economy back on even keel, so to speak, cutting through the ways to a better future for all our people. And we wish the chairperson of SAMSA as well as the acting CEO the best in what you have articulated in terms of charting a way forward in your mandate and traversing the waters in terms of safety in South African commercial ports. Thank you, Chairperson.